Today's hearing marked a crucial moment in Tommy Robinson's ongoing legal challenge. However, it's important to clarify that this session was not about making a final ruling on his case. Instead, the court was focused on three key issues. 1. Whether Robinson's case has legal merit and should proceed further. 2. How quickly the case should be expedited through the courts. Third, when a judge will officially rule on Robinson's treatment at HMP Woodhill. One of the biggest developments from today's hearing was Judge Chamberlain's order directing government lawyers to speak directly with the governor of HMP Woodhill. This comes after Robinson's phone call with his King's Counsel, KC, was abruptly cut off despite clear instructions from the court permitting him to speak with his legal team. This blatant interference has raised serious concerns about whether Robinson's rights are being respected while in custody. Many are calling this an outrageous breach of legal protocol, and today's court session only reinforced those concerns. The fact that a judge had to intervene and order prison officials to explain themselves is a damning sign of what's been happening behind closed doors. Originally, the judge had planned to issue a ruling today on the next steps in Robinson's case. However, in light of the arguments presented in court, and particularly the shocking revelations about the interference from HMP Woodhill's leadership, Judge Chamberlain has now decided that he needs more time to reflect. In his official statement, the judge said he would be reflecting on the submissions overnight, meaning that no decision will be issued until at least tomorrow. This unexpected delay is a direct consequence of the fiasco caused by prison governor Nicola Marfleet, whose actions have now thrown Robinson's legal challenge into even greater uncertainty. Criticism of Nicola Marfleet, the governor of HMP Woodhill, has been mounting. Her decision to cut off Robinson's legal call, an act that defied court instructions, has led to accusations of deliberate obstruction of justice. Many believe that her actions were not just an administrative mistake, but an intentional move to undermine Robinson's ability to defend himself in court. This latest controversy only adds to growing concerns about whether Robinson is facing unfair and politically motivated treatment while in custody. What happens next? With the ruling now postponed, all eyes are on Judge Chamberlain's next move. Will he rule in favor of expediting Robinson's case? Will there be consequences for the interference caused by HMP Woodhill's leadership? And most importantly, will Robinson finally be given a fair hearing? To break down everything that happened inside the courtroom, Ezra Levant spoke in a video, and he'll walk us through the legal arguments, the reaction from Robinson's team, and what this all means moving forward. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update on this developing story. Now let's dive into what happened today in court.
All morning, Tommy Robinson's lawyers and the government's lawyers have been sparring about his treatment in prison. And one of the things they're debating about is, does he get privileges like phone privileges, visitors, and there was some dispute. So there was a moment there when Tommy, who was joining by video link, waved to get the attention of the court to signal that the government lawyer wasn't accurately reporting the facts. So the judge said, okay, we're going to have a short break where Tommy can phone his lawyers to instruct them. Tommy wasn't going to give evidence directly, but he could say things to the lawyer. But in the middle of that phone call, the prison governor hung up the phone, canceled the call, and Tommy Robinson came back and wrote a piece of paper and held it up to the video link saying, I was cut off. And the judge said, is this true? And the Judge Martin Chamberlain said to the government's lawyer, Mr. Cross, you call that prison governor and you get that phone call going right now, and you tell the prison governor not to cut it off until Tommy and his lawyer are done talking. I mean, this judge is very even-keeled. It's tough to read this judge, but when the prison governor cut off Tommy's call, I think that irritated the judge because it delayed things. And here's the reason I think that's an important moment, Dan. It sort of proved that the prison was taking liberties, that the prison was cutting corners, that when the prison says Tommy has certain privileges, well, maybe or maybe not. Of all the things said this morning, I mean, I think Alistair Williamson, the lawyer for Tommy, he's an excellent King's Counsel. I love listening to him myself. But I think perhaps the most persuasive moment was for the judge to witness firsthand the whimsical, capricious, and perhaps even abusive nature of the prison. Amazing, interesting, and I believe that. Other things that the Secretary of State, that's the government's lawyer, was saying, I know from personal experience are not true. I know you visited Tommy, and I visited Tommy once, but my subsequent visits, one of them was approved, and then at the last minute was cut off by the prison. So is that what the Secretary of State, what the government means by Tommy has visiting privileges? For a while there, Tommy's own son was cut off from phone privileges. There's a lot of liberties being taken, and there's a certain cruelty there. And listen, Tommy's been in solitary for about 150 days. It's not meant to be that way, Dan. And listen, I'm not saying Tommy is going to win. It feels like it's on a knife's edge here.
It does.
And we've got about an hour right now, but I think Tommy's got a shot. And remember what's being decided today, not the substance of Tommy's complaint, but the scheduling question has Tommy proved to the judge that things are urgent enough and emergency enough to have a speedy hearing? So today is not the final disposition of should Tommy be in solitary. Today is a judge saying, is this something we should fast track because it's really urgent? And I think the strongest piece of evidence that Tommy's lawyer, Alistair Williamson, presented was a detailed psychological evaluation by a mental health professional sent in to examine Tommy, and talking about his PTSD, his ADHD, how some of it is from his last stay in solitary confinement, how that is affecting Tommy's mindset. I won't try and repeat exactly what the doctor said, but it was pretty persuasive.
Yes, it was.
And by the way, the government didn't dispute any of that psychologist's findings. So you know what? If I had to guess, it's foolish for me to guess because we're going to find out the result in about an hour. But I think this judge is going to say, you know what? Let's have that hearing sooner rather than later. He's not going to make a final disposition about what happens in the hearing, but I bet he goes for a quick hearing. One last detail. I tried to Google a little bit about this judge. I hadn't heard of him before today. His name is Martin Chamberlain. Senior guy, obviously pretty smart guy, from Edinburgh originally, if I'm not mistaken. He gave an interview with the Times of London a few years back, sort of up-and-coming lawyer. They wanted to ask him a question. They said, if you could pass one law, what would it be? And you know what he said? He said we should have stronger freedom of speech in the UK. We should have a US-style First Amendment. And, if I'm not mistaken, he also weighed in favor of the, what's that called? Existence Rebellion, or what's that group called again?
Extinction Rebellion.
That's right. So they're sort of eco-extremists, and you and I might not agree with them, but if this judge is strengthening their right to protest, again, if he's being a principled precedent follower, if he applies that matrix to Tommy, well, maybe he's more sympathetic. If he's a free speecher and a political protest supporter, maybe he's more sympathetic to Tommy. I don't know. You don't want to read too much into it because he is guided by the facts and the law. But the things I could divine about him just by a quick Google, I thought, this isn't a bad judge.
In other news, 2 people have been hospitalized following an airplane crash in North Yorkshire. Emergency services rushed to the scene at Darlington just before 12 p.m. today after the plane hit the ground. It was carrying 2 passengers, both of whom are thought not to have serious injuries. 2 people have been hospitalized following an airplane crash in North Yorkshire. Emergency services rushed to the scene at Darlington just before 12 p.m. today after the plane hit the ground. It was carrying 2 passengers, both of whom are thought not to have serious injuries. The incident occurred in Dalton-on-Tees late this morning, resulting in a major emergency response from North Yorkshire Police, Durham Constabulary, fire crews, and ambulance services. The plane crashed near Croft Circuit, a well-known motor racing venue. In a statement, North Yorkshire Police said, "We were called to a report that a light aircraft had crashed near Dalton-on-Tees at about 11:50 a.m. today. North Yorkshire police officers, supported by officers from Durham Constabulary, attended the scene along with the fire and ambulance services. 2 men in the aircraft were taken to hospital for checks. However, they are not believed to have been seriously injured. We are liaising with the Air Accidents Investigation Branch to determine the full circumstances." What are your thoughts on Tommy Robinson's update? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.